Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Word Nest, where stories take flight. I'm one of your hosts, Amelia, and I'm here with my co-host, Mariah. In today's episode, I'll be asking Mariah, the resident world-building expert at Writer's Digest, questions about world building that she is probably not expecting and which I did not clear with her in advance.
Yay!
So buckle up. They're probably not, I might be overselling them. They're probably not as crazy as I'm making them sound. And most of them, well, not most of them, the oddly specific ones are particular to me because this is a good segue into our writing check-in. I've been working on my romantasy. And I'm learning about myself, things I already knew, actually, which are that I don't really love to world build. And the reason I don't love to world build is because, you know, it's a slippery slope, right? Like, once you start being like, well, where did this come from in our world? Then you have to be like, well, what about this thing? And then this thing, and then this thing. And, like, it makes me insane. But I'm having a good time. I am, like, 8,000 words in. I don't know. Doing good stuff.
Nice.
It's feeling good. That's all I can ask.
Do you have, like, for this particular project, do you have kind of like a projected word count, or are you just straight, like, these are the the beats I want to hit, and whatever words are what they'll be?
Yeah, I think the second. Sometimes I try to have word count or projected word counts, but I think the more you get into genre that is not just like contemporary, like romance or mystery, I think you kind of just like, depending on what you're trying to achieve, like the word count can go so many different ways.
I agree. Yeah, unless, I mean, obviously because I do so much Flash, like, I kind of know, like, okay, for example, I'll be like, okay, I have a great idea for a Flash piece. And then, like, once I start writing it, I'm like, there's no way I can do what I want to do with this story in under 1,000 words. So then you kind of understand, like, okay, actually, this idea is not a Flash piece, it's a short story or it's a novella or whatever. But, like, when it comes for my longer pieces, I agree with you. Like, I'm more about, like, you know, these are the character arc, like, of the emotions that I want to hit. You know, this is the theme I want to explore. These are the beats that I have in my plot, and what the words will be is what they'll be.
Yeah, and I think that one thing I think about more than the word count is like the scope, and that was sort of something I came to terms with recently. Was planning a different novel, was like I had a hard time writing for like a really long time, and it was playing D&D that got me back into it. And so I was like, well, in D&D I had a character with a backstory, so I started making backstories for like all these characters. And then I found that when I was writing, I like didn't need half of them. And I was like, the narrative is so clogged. And so I think thinking about like the scope of what I can accomplish in like the span of the story I'm trying to tell is more important than thinking about word count, because like I don't want to be shoving in a million different arcs that aren't actually relevant to my plot and themes. And like, it's a romantasy, so the focus is the romance.
Mm-hmm. So true.
And like, so I don't care about a billion different side characters.
Right.
I care about some side characters, to be clear, but like we're not doing an ensemble cast here.
Yeah. This is just something, like, thinking about side characters. And I don't want to get us too off track, because I know we have a lot to talk about today. But I have this book here. Ta-da! Okay, so this is Book in a Month, which I've had for approximately 10,000 years. But it is personally very helpful to me. I've never written, like, a full novel in a month. I mean, I've written a book over the course of a month, but not like beginning to end. Here's a first draft in 30 days. But the way that this book sets you up, they ask you to think very critically about side characters, and then to like put them in, I guess, like sports metaphor, like first string, second string, third string.
I like that.
So you kind of have to...
I think I don't actually know what string means, so, like...
I
In
am
sports, I don't know what that means.
yeah, like very, very unfamiliar with those terms, but like basically like who's your most important? Like who's gonna be on the page the most? Who's gonna need to be fleshed out the most? That's your first string. Second string is like one below that. So they might appear, they might be integral to the plot, but we're not gonna connect with them as like deeply. We're not gonna see as much of them. And then third string is like your NPCs, basically.
Well, and I think I was trying to think about it that way, but something that I found is if I spend a lot of time thinking about side characters, then I become too precious to use them. Kind of like when you buy a new notebook.
Yeah, I understand
so, like,
that.
Some I will use, like I have a side character I'm just like I'm not articulating well, but basically the way I've been thinking about it that has worked for me is I have like my main characters, and then I have like the people I need for the plot, like the villain, etc. And then like anyone else, I'm inventing characters as I need them. And when I need them, I might be thinking deeply about their backstory, but I'm trying not to box myself into a corner where I then have to kill my darlings, because it's a lot easier to slash a character who doesn't really exist than it is to slash a character I thought about for a long time.
I am so sorry.
It's okay, I did that last time. I totally forgot to say, you all might have a better time hearing me, because I finally got a new mic. Not finally, this is only episode, 6? But now I have the same mic as Mariah, so we should be relatively the same volume.
I threw a hammer off my desk.
You threw a hammer off your desk?
Yeah.
I thought it was a book.
Yeah. I pushed a book to the side, which displaced the hammer. It's just...
Oh, wait, I had one more thing to say about side characters, which relates, I think, to your sports metaphor. I don't know, maybe it doesn't, sorry.
Just to be clear, it's not my metaphor.
The sports metaphor, which you brought up. I'm going to talk about Once Upon a Time again. And so, like, one of the things I like to think about when I'm thinking about side characters is not so much, like, what their personality is, but what role they fill. And so, the show Once Upon a Time, in season 1, did a really good job of being like, okay, who do we already have in the cast, and what additional roles can they fill? Like, for example, Rumpelstiltskin is Rumpelstiltskin. He's also the fairy godmother. He's the beast, and he's the crocodile from Peter Pan. But as they went on to later seasons, they were like, who else instead can we bring on? How can we shovel more characters into this show? And I think most people would agree that the later seasons are awful.
Yeah.
So let Once Upon a Time be what not to do of side characters.
I would be really curious to see if it was the same writing staff.
It was much of the same writing staff.
Really? That's interesting to me. Because, like, I know that Supernatural is, like, completely stupid and unhinged in a lot of ways. And, like, and bringing it back to world building, the reason why it is so unhinged is because, like, it often, like, breaks its own rules in a lot of ways. And I credit that to the writer and creator leaving after season, I believe, 5?
Only season 5?
It was only ever supposed to be like 4 or 5 seasons long.
Oh no.
It was supposed to end. Yeah.
But you would never have had, it didn't Cass come in like season 4?
Yeah, pretty much.
So you would never have had
right.
Cass, so
yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
oof.
So it's just one of those things, like, as a world builder, when I watch that show, I have to just, like, disconnect that part of my brain, because I'm just gonna be like, we're just here for vibes. We're not here for, like...
That's how I feel about Once Upon a Time, yeah.
And honestly, it is much easier for me to do that when watching something than reading it.
Well, and, like, I think, too, there's something to be said about, like, movie is distracting you with spectacle, whereas, like, if the scene is changing, like, I, too, am changing with the scene, whereas in a book, I can stop reading, I can put it down. And, like, yeah, I can pause a movie, but, like, movies aren't made to be paused.
Yeah.
Books have breaking points. They have chapters. So I do think there is something about the visual medium that makes it a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I also feel like Pretty Little Liars did the same thing with its own rules. I'm saying this as a person who never got past season, 3 of Pretty Little Liars.
Yeah, it's hard to...
But,
I watched it when I was in college, but I didn't get all the way through it because something happened. So I watched it up until the point where they had the spin-off show, which was of like a paranormal spin-off. And I loved that, and then that kind of got canceled or whatever. But well,
it's because they broke up Hannah and Caleb to do it.
Yeah, but
I
was
crazy.
I was no, Hannah and Caleb were my favorite.
Yeah.
Couple. So I just stopped watching then because I was very upset.
Yeah. Well, I've watched all of the Mike's Mike summaries of Pretty Little Liars. So.
Who was it L? M?
A?
A.
I don't want to.
Who was the letter?
I don't want to spoil Pretty Little Liars on our podcast, where people are not expecting me to spoil Pretty Little Liars, but I'll tell you after.
Okay.
Or you could just watch Mike's Pretty Little Liars recap. They're really good.
I won't be doing that.
Fine.
I have more things to do, more garbage to put in my brain.
Yeah, just watch your Judge Judy instead.
I will. And then I'll go and I'll watch Jesse McCartney on TikTok. Parody Judge Judy.
See, I liked that better. So she made me watch a bunch of Judge Judy, and it made me so anxious. I don't know how you guys watch these things. I was like, I don't want to watch people get in fights in courtrooms. I don't want to watch people be chastised. I respect it. No judgment.
It is just my personal feelings that a lot of those people manufacture reasons because they get paid to be there.
I think you're probably right, but nonetheless.
Yeah.
They're like, this is real. And I'm like, I don't want to be involved in that. What I want to be involved in is watching someone else tell me what happened. Mariah, you can watch Judge Judy and then tell me about it. And I'll be like, oh my God, tell me more.
Yeah.
But I don't want to watch it.
I feel like it's very similar to in my part-time job yesterday, I had drama. And so, you don't want to be there for the drama. You don't want the drama to be happening to you. No. But then when you're in the group chat and the drama's happening to somebody else, you're like, yes.
You're like, tell me everything.
Yeah.
Tell me all the drama.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how my writing is going. How's your writing going?
Fine. I had a pitch. So I sent a nonfiction pitch, which I think I told you guys about, to a magazine, and they got back to me. It was a pitch for an interview, and they were like, so we have learned not to accept interviews as pitches, even though as an editor, I understand this, but this is a frustrating thing to me, is that, on their website, they're like, we only accept pitches, don't ever send us a completed draft of anything. So I sent them a pitch, and then they're like, actually, we don't accept pitches for interviews. But they were interested enough in my pitch that they were like, if you do the interview and write a complete version of a complete draft, then you can send that to us. So I did. I did the interview, typed up the interview, the typed up interview, and then I sent that to them, and I got confirmation that they received it. So I am waiting to hear back on that. And then
Great.
I entered a competition, and Amelia actually helped me with this, and our friend Margaret. So I spent 20 whole doll hairs, and I entered a first page competition. So it was literally just the first page of a work in progress. Hilariously, it's just a work in progress in my mind. I wrote the first page for the competition.
That's a work in progress. That still counts.
But
Don't
I had
sell
a lot
yourself
of fun.
short.
I had a lot of fun writing it, and it came out really naturally. And I'm like, oh no, now I'm gonna have to write the whole book.
Good, do it. Write the whole book.
And I got barely any feedback from Amelia and Margaret, in the sense that they were like, this is really nice and we would like to see more of it, which I was like, cool, maybe I'll do something with it.
I think you should. Please do. Yeah. We can write together.
And that's about where I am in my writing.
Well, cool. So I guess this is where where I'd like to invite everyone to, in the comments, tell us about your writing.
Yeah, where are you guys at? What do you do?
Yeah. Any of you writing romanticies? Anyone have any more romantasy recommendations for us? Still haven't read one. I shouldn't admit that. I'm not going to admit that. You didn't hear it. No one heard that.
No, you have.
Oh, that's right. I have. I forgot.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. That's why I forgot.
No, you read one that you liked, and we talked about it, and you were like, oh, I was having resistance to calling it a romantasy. But
yes.
What was that book?
I remember the book, and I'm not going to say it out loud because
Okay.
I'm not sure whether the social media boycott is still continuing. But so I do know what book you're talking about, and
Yes.
thank you. I remember now. You are correct.
Yes.
I also read Divine Rivals, which I did not like, but the reason I didn't like it was because of the romance. And as we all know, I am super picky about romance.
Yeah.
I watched a video that had some problems with the world building in that book, but it didn't really bother me so much, so not to say that, I mean, I'm not that picky about world building, is what I mean to say. Insofar as that in the amount of things I'm picky about, world building is low on my list, but I'm picky about everything, to be clear.
So, and I don't want to hijack our conversation,
No, please
because
do.
I know you have, like, specific things you want to talk about. But I wanted to ask you, thinking about world building, talking about romantasy. Now, in our romantasy discussion a couple of episodes ago, we kind of touched on, like, a lot of romantasy novels have softer world building, where, like, the focus is more so on the romance and less so, because that was what was personally frustrating to me as a reader, is, like, nitpicking it apart. I know that you said, like, you are not nitpicky about world building. Like, do you consider yourself to be a soft world builder / is your work in progress soft, or is it hard
No.
world building?
It's hard world building. Here's the thing. I am nitpicky if I find nits to pick at. So I'm not necessarily looking for them. But as with anything I read, immediately as soon as something is brought into question, I'm immediately looking for other things to question. Because that's just who I am as a person. And I think for me, it's not so much the world building, I guess, that I notice. Because, like, I'll have conversations with my partner who is excellent at world building and, like, it's great at D&D and all these things. And he's like, well, you can just extrapolate XYZ from this detail. And I'm like, well, I don't know, maybe you can do that. Not me. But it's does your plot make sense with your world? So, like, when I'm nitpicking world building, I'm not necessarily thinking, like, well, why do they have this technology? I'm thinking about, like, well, why is this political machination happening when XYZ? And I think that's what would frustrate me about a book with sort of loosey-goosey world building, is, like, your world building can be loosey-goosey, but I want your plot to be airtight. And those things are inextricably linked, as we will hopefully discuss.
Yeah.
When I pick your brain on world building.
All right. I'm ready. I'm
Okay.
ready to be picked at.
All right. So I guess the first question that I have, which was sort of related to that, so I think we'll kind of end up there at some point, is when you're thinking about a new world, what do you personally start with? Do you need examples?
Yeah, can you
Like,
just
when-
clarify, what do you mean by, like, what things?
Like, what are you starting with thinking about? Are you thinking about the magic? Are you thinking about the aesthetic? Are you thinking about the technology level?
Okay, so I start with character.
I love that answer.
Yeah, so my world building is based on the character and their emotional arc and what I need from them.
Well, that's it. That's like the whole episode.
Well, wait, let me like take you through my process though. Okay, so
Please do.
The first page that I had you read. I know that we talked about this. You might not remember. This was like months ago. But I had this like Dean Winchester
I remember.
Appalachian magic vibe.
I remember.
So when I talk about Kit and Reed, those are that's what I'm like nebulously working with right now. Kit is the main character who the story is being told through. She, her, I think. And then Reed is the like Dean Winchester stand-in, I guess.
Just coming right out and saying it, I guess.
Yeah, like, I really love Dean's character, and someday on this show, I'm going to do a deep dive into Dean Winchester.
I can't wait. I'm going to ask you a bunch of dumb questions.
Yeah, and like we could talk forever, or at least I could, about Supernatural, but specifically the things that the show did with Dean's character and the things that they explored through him and the things that they didn't, I think are the most fascinating parts of the story. So I was like, don't get me wrong, I love Castiel, but like he has no place in this world that I've built. So instead we have Kit, and so I was like, okay, I had written this flash piece quite a while ago based on a local Maryland cryptid called the Snallygaster. If you guys have never heard of a Snallygaster, it actually has, like, this was very sad for me to learn because, like, I love cryptids. I love those kind, like, how those things come to be. Unfortunately, it has very racist roots in that, like, there was, like, a black community, and then German immigrants were, like, I'll have to read on the history again. There's a really great article that I can find at some point, but basically they were like, we are going to like create this creature that terrorizes white people and like lives where the black people live. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, is essentially how the Snallygaster came to be in the 1800s, but it is a really cool creature, and it is like an octopus lizard chicken with wings, and it flies and it snatches your livestock and your children.
Fantastic. What,
yeah.
In Pennsylvania, what do we have? The squonk?
Yeah, we have the squonk.
The squonk sucks.
The squonk is always weeping because it's so ugly.
Yeah.
And the squonk is the Snallygaster's natural enemy.
Well, how? All it does is cry. And then if you look at it head on, it like bursts into a puddle of tears.
Yeah. Cryptids are so weird and stupid, and I love them. But anyway, so I was like, you know, I had this idea, and I wrote this flash piece about a woman who lives in a town on a ley line, and she works in a diner, and she's being terrorized at night by this Snallygaster that's been eating out of their dumpster. And so, like, in the first draft of the story, I had this woman who was in the diner who was like a stranger, like a traveler, what have you, somebody not local. And so I think her name was Rosie, the girl, the waitress at the diner, is like low-key trying to be like, get out before the Snallygaster becomes a problem for you when you try to go to your car, without being like, there's a Snallygaster, do you know what that is? So the woman ends up leaving, but she doesn't actually leave, and then Rosie gets entangled with the Snallygaster, and then the woman like jumps out of the darkness and like rescues her, and turns out she's a witch and has like powers. Like specifically, she had like a lightning spell, and then she cast and she like zapped the Snallygaster. And then I was like, ooh, the idea of like this witch who's running away from somewhere and is escaping something, and then kind of washes up in this town that attracts those kind of people, like people who have some history with like the arcane or like the paranormal or whatever, because it's on the ley line. So it's this hub. And then I thought, like, well, what would convince her to stay if she's on the run? How do I get her kind of centered? And if she saves Rosie, and Rosie's like, listen, we really need help here because all of these different creatures and like entities and like all of these things that get kind of trapped here are all wreaking havoc on the people who live here. And then of course, Kit became who she is. And then I was like, and this is somebody who Dean Winchester would fall in love with. So how would I get a Dean-esque human being who, like, identity is based on like hunting and killing creatures who use magic. Like, how could I get him? So like all of like, right? So I'm like, okay, if he's going to be a hunter, there has to be some dynamic where obviously there's magic in the world, there's ley lines, there's creatures. First question, do the general public know about them or not? If we have hunters, okay, are they government funded? Are they freelancers? Are they mercenaries? Are they, you know what I mean? Like, how do they make a living? How do they stay out of trouble? How do they do these things? And then, like, it grows. It just keeps growing and growing and growing. Okay, well, what was Kit running from? How is that going to come up later? How can I keep that a tense thread throughout the story? If she's found what she considers to be her safe harbor, how do I keep that thrum of anxiety in the story so you know something's coming? So then, of course, as I do, I was like, what if she was in a cult? And
Love a cult.
Love a cult. I love a cult. So then I was like, okay, what if it was a cult of an old god, and the old god is trying to use her in some way, and that's the seed of her power. So the more she uses the power, the more she's under the control of the old god. And there's like that idea of like, she never knows when is the last time she's going to be herself. So you don't want to use the magic, you don't want to use the power, but you're also doing things that get you in situations where you have to make that decision if it's worth it or not.
I like that because I think it's important to think about the cost of doing magic, because if anyone can just do anything, then like there's no stakes in your world.
Yep.
And like I had to think about that a lot in my second world about like healing magic. It's like I don't want people to be able to just heal, because that takes away a lot of potential tension. Like if people can just be healing, then they could just be doing anything. What's the point?
And that is a nitpick that I had with the first... Oh my god, what was the romantasy I just read?
Fourth Wing?
Yeah. They had healers, so she's like, oh, my shitty body, it's so shitty and terrible. And I'm like, they could literally just, like, heal you.
What could they do? Could they heal everything?
Yeah, seemed like anything. It would just be, like, super painful, and you would need to, like, recuperate. But, like, it was, like, speeding up the process. But she was like, but I can't do that because then everyone will think that I'm weak and they'll try to kill me. I'm like... That's
so dumb.
But they're trying to kill you anyway.
And, like, I'm chronically ill. If I could spend a week in excruciating pain, but then be, like, totally fine after, I'm taking that deal. Are you kidding?
Oh, and it wasn't even, like, a week. It was, like, a couple of hours of excruciating pain, and then, like, she would have to take, like, 2 days to recuperate.
Dude, if they were like, you'll be in excruciating pain for a month, but then you'll be fine, I'd be like, all right.
But, like, when we're talking about nitpicking, those are the things that I'm nitpicking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I would definitely be wondering the same if I had read Fourth Wing.
And, like, to me, everything grows out of character. So, like it doesn't make sense to me that you have a character who is chronically ill and has, like, based on, like, she is, like, personal friends with the healers, they treat her like a daughter, they love her very much, because she's because of her quote-unquote, like, shitty body, she's, like, always needing to be healed, and then all of a sudden she's like, no, I can't do that anymore. And I'm like, but that doesn't make any sense to me. Because, like, everybody's trying to kill you anyway. So why not use everything that you have to your advantage? Like, your connections and your friendships. And so, yeah, so those are the things that, like, when I'm writing my own stuff, those are the things that I'm nitpicking. Like, when I read over my own work, it's those kind of connections that I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to need... Like, I just drop notes in the document. You know, I'm not going through and editing as I'm writing. Like, I'll read back. You have a spreadsheet.
I have a spreadsheet. Oh, yeah.
So,
I can't write without my spreadsheet.
So how do you keep track? Like, do you put, like, page number and then the note to yourself?
No, I'm just a chaos person. Every time I start a new line in the spreadsheet, I start a new note. Or every time I start a new note, I put it on a new line. So basically the columns on my spreadsheet are the date, the current word count, and so I have, like, a column of date, and then I have, like, my word count at the end of the day. And then I have a column where I can, like, say how many words I've written. Obviously, it just requires me to do some math, so I never fill that column in. Like, once at the end, I'll go through and actually do all the math just so I can see, because I like the graph. I like data. I think a lot about, like, the math of a book, but that's not for now. So I have that. I have a list of every time I give a character a name, I write them down in my list of people who are named. Because my brain is made of oatmeal and I will not remember them. And I do the same thing for places, especially in a fantasy world where I'm like, these places aren't real. I'm writing them down. And so I have a section for just taking notes, and some of the best advice I ever received, and I don't remember who gave it to me. I don't know if I read it. I don't know if I was given it personally. But some of the best advice I've ever received is, if you want to make an edit, just make note that you want to make that major edit, and then proceed as if you have already done it.
Yes, yep. Now, I don't have a spreadsheet, but I write in, like, a word processor. So I always use the comment section. Like, and what I like to do is, like, I'll just read over what I wrote in the last writing session.
That's what
so I never, like, start from the beginning or whatever. I'm just like, okay, like, a little refresher to help me drop back into it. But then I'll find things, and then I'm like, okay, well, boop, here's a note. And then when I go back, like, when I'm editing my draft, I can go back and I can be like, okay, I see exactly in the scene where these things are happening. But real quick, before we move on, I had, like, here's an example of how my world building, like, plops out of character, right? So Reed kills for a living, essentially. Like, he goes around and he eliminates things that are threats to people. So his character, he's going to think a lot about death, about the afterlife, about, like, his job is dangerous. So, like, death is a part of his existence. He could die at any time. What does the afterlife look like? What is, are there gods? Are there, is there a hell? Like, these are questions that he has no answers to. I mean, arguably none of us do, right? And so this is something that he is going to discuss with Kit, who has her own experience with these things. Obviously, she is connected to this old god, and so that is a conversation that they're going to have. But as the writer, I have to determine, like, what those answers will be for each of those characters. So, like, personally, I think, what?
Is that world building?
I think so. Okay. Because, like, personally for me, I'll know the answer for this world. Right. I'll be like, this is exactly who the gods are, how many there are, how they came to be, what they want, but, like, Kit and Reed don't know these things. They're only coming to the page with their lived experiences. Right. So they're going to have very different ideas. Like, Kit feels like she knows exactly what the answer is, and Reed is more nebulous and feels like you can't know. And I think both of those answers, like, not only come from their character, but also inform the character.
And I think you've hit on something that makes writing advice kind of difficult, and it's that all of the pieces are inextricably linked. So, like, when I'm thinking about world building, I'm thinking about my themes, I'm thinking about my character arcs. So, like, setting, character, plot, that's the other thing. Those are all tied together, and, like, for me, it all comes down to theme. I'm really big about theme. I know people get frustrated thinking about theme sometimes, been a little traumatized in English class by it, but ultimately, I am not very annoying about it. I think it's so important to consider your themes, because your book is going to say something. Yeah. Whether you have chosen that or not. And you ought to know what your book is saying. Mm-hmm. And you should be in control of it. So, I mean, that's something that has been what has informed most of my world building so far. Is just thinking about theme.
So you come to the character, the plot, and everything, like, you sit there and you're like, this is the theme I want to explore. Who comes out of that theme? No. Or who can I best explore that theme through?
I would say I also start with character, but then next is theme. I'm like, character, then theme, and then from those two things and how they communicate with one another, I'm thinking about the world, I'm thinking about the plot. Because for me, character arc is part of the theme, and like, those things all have to go together, because I want my character arc to reflect my thematic arc as well.
Okay. I think that makes sense.
Yeah. And I'm not going to give anything. I'm not actually going to discuss specifics of my book other than that it's Second World, and also the question that I'm going to ask you about my particular world building. But yeah, I think theme is very important to me, as it should be to all of you. Theme is so important.
Tell us your themes!
Tell us your themes! And think about your themes. Jenny Nicholson does a lot of movie breakdowns, and like her main thing is often just like, what are you trying to say? Which is, you know, I guess not every book is trying to say something, but it is saying something, and that is just the facts. So don't say something that you don't want to say. Okay, let me bring up my question list. So you've been talking mostly about like our world, and when I had envisioned this discussion, I was thinking entirely Second World, because like I much prefer a world building with our world. I don't like creating a whole new world from scratch, because you go down the rabbit hole and suddenly the rabbit hole is never ending. It's turtles all the way down, and it's not my favorite. So if you're thinking about building a secondary world,
okay,
what sort of thing, so let's say you already have your characters thought about.
Okay.
What sort of thing are you thinking about first? Are you thinking about your magic system? Are you thinking about the government?
Okay, so I'm not sure particularly how to answer this question, but I will give you an example of a Second World story, like a long-form story project that I had. It was several novellas leading up to a novel that was never written. But the idea was that all of these different communities, like, mostly centered around, like, one continent and then, like, several islands that were, like, separate nations. And, like, on the continent there were separate nations. But each of them has their own chosen one. But then all of the chosen ones, like, they're various ages, like, it's not like they were all 18 and left home, or, you know what I mean? It wasn't like that. But they're all like, we don't want this responsibility, or like, they didn't know that they were technically like a chosen one, but like something drove them away from their homes. And they all end up meeting each other and forming this little found family. And then, they end up fulfilling all of the prophecies that had been said about them. So
that's what
like,
happens when you try to evade a prophecy.
Yeah, like technically they were all correct and they were all the chosen ones, but it wasn't until their stories were woven together that each of those like visions, I don't know how to describe it, like became reality, and like affected the world on like a much larger scale. I like had all these different characters, and then I developed that idea, and then I started to like put building blocks around based on like that idea, and like forming each of their communities, and like how are they going to be different from each other, what it's going to be similar, like their ideas on politics, their ideas on religion, like all of these things that as you're forming a friendship and you're getting to know people and you're relying on them, and like any relationship, you know, you're getting deeper and deeper and deeper into who that person is and where they come from. Like I just start, again, you know, if they're going to have a discussion on religion, they're all coming to it from like very different perspectives. But then like, again, love a cult. So I have one guy, Q, came from a religious cult, like very religious cult, based on the worship of one goddess. Then I have another character, Ash, who is under the control of like a dark god, who like seeds chaos and mayhem. And so like, where he is like, oh, the gods love us and they just like want us to do good, and like she's like, no, they don't. They don't give a shit about you. But again, like like for them to have that conversation, I'm like, okay, Ash is going to be negative and Q is going to be like very optimistic, and like as is their personality traits. What do I need to have in their experiences? What do I need to build into their worlds that shaped them in that way? So it's not all about religion. That's just the one thing that really came to mind. Because again, I love a cult, and like a lot of cults are like religious in nature, or they have some kind of factor for worshiping. So does that at all answer your question?
It was interesting, but it didn't. My question was a lot less serious. I'm more meant like, what do you like to think about?
I like to think about all of it.
Surely something is more fun than the other. Like, I'm having a really good time thinking about fashion. I'm not having a good time thinking about anything else. That's not true. I had fun thinking about other things.
I don't think there's, like, a more or less enjoyable for me. There is a harder difficulty and a less difficult thing.
That's
so,
fair.
Like, fashion, yes, love it. Very easy for me to think about.
Oh, I'm having I don't know anything, but I'm consulting experts. I'm doing my research. I'm enjoying it, but I wouldn't say I'm good at it.
What gets more complicated for me is and also just because I am personally less interested in like governments and international politics and like borders and like those things. Like when I say like I'm less interested in it, I mean like when I was in college, I took like art classes, I took religions classes, I have a minor in history, I took the beginnings of literature in America, like going back to the very first like fiction piece ever written in this country, all the way up to like genre works, and I took one class that was just sci-fi. Like, you know what I mean? Like those are things that like interest me. I took classes in biology and ecology, and like never once did I take a class on I shouldn't say that.
I took a class on Greek politics.
I took a class on like early East Asian countries. And in that class, we discussed politics and like the way that borders were created. We talked about that heavily, but it was less focused on the politics aspect and more focused on like the sociological aspects of it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm interested in how those things affect people. I'm less interested in the like machinations behind them.
Yeah, and that's kind of what, if I can go off on a brief tangent again. Absolutely. About romanticy. And like, also I want to say, I want to disclaim that if I sound really mean about romanticy, it's not that I think these books are, I know I say they're bad. I don't think they're bad, and I don't think people shouldn't read them. I think.
Well, and maybe we should just restate something that I know we've talked about before, but like when we're like, oh, we didn't like it, it was a like quote unquote bad. We mean for us personally.
Yes. Because
as editors, we can look at something and say, this is just not for me, but like it deserves to have fans and live in the world.
And like, I think everything is bad. So, so like, don't listen to my opinion unless I tell you something is good, and then you should listen. But one of the things that I think I find somewhat frustrating about these like very popular romanticises are that a lot of them seem to want to have that political plot, but like they're not deeply exploring politics. Okay. And I'm not saying you have to deeply explore politics to have a political plot. I think, correct me if I'm wrong because I haven't read this book in like 20 years, but like the Da Vinci Code does explore. Oh wait, maybe neither did I. Maybe I read the other one, Angels and Demons. Did you read that one?
Not my jam.
Also not my jam. I did read it in like high school, but I'm like pretty sure. I mean, like that's like a political thriller type thing.
It is storming here.
Oh.
So the dog is
Hi, Gimli.
dogging.
I hear him. But yeah, I think, so all of that is to say, I don't think you need to, like, explore politics to have any sort of, like, political thriller. But, like, when you're writing a political thriller set in our world, you already have a basis of things. Like, you don't have to invent, you do have to invent, but you have, like, a system in place. So you don't really have to think about necessarily, like, what systems need to be in place. Because they are. I'm going to bring up a book that I actually am surprised I have never talked about on this show yet, because I feel like I should have, because it's one of my favorite books of all time. But it is The Song of the Lioness Quartet by Tamara Pierce. I just love Tamara Pierce. I love The Song of the Lioness Quartet and The Immortals Quartet, and I've definitely read the books that she wrote after that, but I don't love them as much and I haven't reread them, so I don't really remember them. But basically, all of these books are always very much like wrapped up in the government, but you sort of get the sense that this is something that exists, and that a lot of care was crafted into saying something. Maybe not so much in The Song of the Lioness Quartet. Actually, no, I'm changing my mind. I think it does say something, and also I just love those books so much. I love Alana. She is my favorite character. In most, like, she's just the best character ever, maybe even. I just love her. So everyone, that's my recommendation. You should all read Song of the Lioness Quartet. Also, Tamara Pierce, not afraid to have a lady have a lot of boyfriends, and I love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it there's a lot of, you know, the king is bad, we've got to have a revolution, and not so much like, well, what I don't know what I'm trying to say. Because I don't mean to imply that the authors have not thought about these. Obviously, they've thought about them. You can't just, like, slap together a book with a plot that you've never thought about in your life.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe someone can, but I don't think that anyone's doing that. But yeah, that's something I see a lot, is sort of like, why is it happening in this way? What does this mean?
The only time I think I'm interested in subjects of power in that way are like, so there is a show on MGM Plus, I believe, called From, which is like a horror show.
Oh, you've mentioned this show before.
Yes. So, no spoilers, but like, just very brief world building background for this show. There's like, then this is literally like in the first few minutes of the show. I'm not spoiling anything. There's a town, and then like you somehow get brought into the town. They're not really sure like how it works, but once you're there, you can't leave. But so they've had to create their own society, essentially. So there's like two camps. There's like town, and then there's like kind of like I don't want to say hippies in like a negative way, but like there are the people who are living for tomorrow, who are like, we're going to get out, we're going to go back home. And then there are the people who are like, we never know when's our last day, we're going to live for today, we're going to like drink a lot and like have a lot of promiscuous sex and like enjoy our lives, basically. But each of those camps like have their own kind of like power structures, because, you know, like, there has to be some kind of leader, there has to be some kind of, what am I trying to say? Like, structure. If you have no structure, then everybody dies.
Right.
Because, like, you need some kind of protection, you need, like, everybody needs to do chores, you have to keep yourselves alive, you have to survive. And so, seeing how those power structures, like, flex and change over the course of the seasons is very interesting to me. But like, things that I'm interested in as a reader, I'm not necessarily interested in writing. Like, I probably would never write From.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I agree with that. Like, I don't know. That was my sort of half-baked thought, and I felt like when I started, I was really cooking. And then by the time I got to the end, I'm not really sure that I was anymore.
Well, I think we had a great discussion about it. Like, I felt like, yeah, I think we said some things.
We did say some things. So here's a question that you may or may not actually have an answer for. Well, no, I think if you think about it, you can find an answer.
Okay. I'll probably yap until I've said some words that are worth saying.
Well, so this is just what advice is different from. Note to self: read over your questions before you go to the show. If you were going to give someone advice about world building, what is at least one thing that is different that you would give advice? What different piece of advice would you give world building a second world versus world building on our world?
Let me stare at the ceiling while I gather my thoughts. Okay.
That was such a mouthful. I'm going to re-record myself asking you that question.
So no, because I think you said it correctly. Like, what
eventually?
If somebody came up to me and they're like, "Hey, you know, I'm trying to decide between this story that's a second world versus this story that's set in our world. What advice do you have for me jumping into either of those worlds? How would my advice differ between those two stories?"
Or if how would my advice differ might be like too long a topic, but like one thing that differs.
Right. I think my biggest advice for the second world builder is, no matter what, when you have your first draft done, get a sensitivity reader.
Oh God, yeah.
Get a sensitivity reader. I think everybody should have a sensitivity reader, but especially second world builders, get a fucking sensitivity reader.
You need a sensitivity reader, and you also need a picky bitch.
Yep. and you need to pay them.
Yes.
Like, get somebody who does this professionally, pay them their professional rate, and listen to their advice. The reason why I say this is because we're all human. Again, like, talking about, like, working from limited experiences in our characters, we also are working from our limited experiences as a person on this planet. And I just wrote about this for my world building column in Writer's Digest, but there was a book a number of years ago, and of course, I wrote the article, but several months ago. So even though the publication just came out, I wrote the article months ago. So
well, check out Writer's Digest, figure out what book it is, and then tell us.
I'll never forget. I'll never remember. As soon as we hang up, I'm gonna go look it up. But there was an author who was from mainland China.
Oh, I know exactly who you're talking about.
And
go on.
when she, like, her book was like set to publish. You know, they had a publication date. They were doing all of this marketing for it. They sent out the ARCs, the advanced reader copies, and she started getting all of this feedback that her story was incredibly racist because she had a system of slavery in the book that American readers, like, felt was very racist toward Black Americans. Now, from her experience as someone who grew up and lived in China, like, the stuff that she was exploring was based on her country, their history, like, things that she knew. But when it was brought to her attention, she was like, okay, I can't in good conscience release this book because, you know, your readers are coming at this with their experience, not yours. So she actually postponed the publication and went back and did significant rewrites based on the feedback she had received. I do not blame that author for that.
I was going to say, I don't even know that this is a great example.
Well,
because if
if the publisher had given her a sensitivity reading.
Oh, yes.
Because you're releasing it to an American audience.
Yeah.
She's writing it in English. Like, they should have set her up better for success.
I do think that publishers should be providing sensitivity readers.
I think this is, like, a topic we're going to have a lot more further down the line about, like, the failings that publishers have, and the way that the system is flawed, and the way that it often, I feel in these situations, leaves the author holding the bag when it's not necessarily their fault. But, like, a sensitivity reader is there to advocate on behalf of your readers. So if that author had a sensitivity reader, she could have been like, hey, just so you're aware, in America, these are the connotations that this system of slavery is going to have. This is how your reader is potentially going to feel while reading this.
And also, just on the note of sensitivity readers, you need to know what you need to read sensitively for. And like, it's a good idea to have someone who is generally doing a vibe check if you are not quite sure. But then if they're like, you should get someone who can read XYZ, then that is what you need to look for. If you are trying to write a trans character, you need a person who is trans, most likely, to be your sensitivity reader.
And most sensitivity readers will state their specialties.
Yes.
Like, I don't think I've ever seen a sensitivity reader who's like, I read for everything. Like,
yes. And if they do,
I'm sensitive in all
I wouldn't trust them.
Yeah.
Just like when I was freelance editing, I didn't accept every editing project.
Yeah.
Especially, there are some genres I just don't enjoy. And while we will talk at some point about how to edit genres you don't enjoy, because most of the genres I edit are not ones that I necessarily read widely in, there are some genres where I was like, I'm never going to be able to help you. Like, I can't help someone with sci-fi because I simply don't know the genre.
Yeah. I think that's very fair.
How did I get here? How did we get to this part of the conversation? Oh, sensitivity reading.
Yes. So yeah, the short answer to your question, like what piece of advice would I have that differs between them, I would really, really stress that for the second world builder, just because like there are so many more ways to hurt people when you're building your world from scratch, because you are creating that world from your own internal biases, your own viewpoint, your own experiences, which obviously can leave a lot of people on the outside.
But yeah, I think one thing that we haven't talked about at all in regards to writing is that it's okay to make your life, the writer's life, easier. Yeah. You can do things in your book just because it's easier. I had a lot of people come to me, and not people come to me. I had a lot of clients who would try to make all these convoluted explanations for things. And I would say, why? And they were like, well, because I need an explanation. And I would say, well, there's a simple one. And they were like, oh, can I do that? And the answer is yes. You can do whatever you want. You are the god of your world. And you can take the easy route if it makes sense. Now, if it doesn't make sense, then there's certainly still a simple explanation that is easier than the most convoluted one you can think of. And if it has to be the convoluted one, then you're going to need a lot more reasons why. So I do want to encourage people to take the easy route. Make your life easy.
Yeah.
Because remember, as soon as you will have readers like me, you will have readers pickier than me. And as soon as there's a hole that they can poke, they're going to start poking holes. So don't let them. Don't give them the opportunity. Do you want me to think on your book about all the holes in it? Do you want me to DNF it?
And I think often, like, and don't get me wrong, I'm somebody who, like, world builds way too much, meaning that, like, the back end is like this when the story is like this.
Which is good. But you know those things.
Yes, but if you don't cherry pick exactly what information goes into the story, then it's just going to be bogged down and heavy and boring. And, like, I always go to this, I never pronounce this correctly. Don't come for me. The
Silmarillion?
Thank you. Like, not every Lord of the Rings book is that book.
No.
He saved it for that book. For people who are very interested in that.
And the people who love it, love it.
Yeah.
And
but like
when you're popular, you can also write your own Silmarillion.
Yeah, but like I don't want to read that in The Hobbit. I want to read The Hobbit. Exactly. And The Hobbit has sprinkles from that bigger understanding of the world, but they're not mushed together. And I do think that is the hardest part of world building, is figuring out what exactly needs to be on the page at any given time. But if I may, just give a little advice.
Please do.
So,
just a little right now.
This is coming from a conversation that you and I had maybe yesterday, a few days ago.
Have we spoken? I don't even know.
But I had asked you if you sit down and build your world and then write, or if you are writing the story and building things into it as the plot necessitates it.
I remember, because I said, when do I stop world building? And you said, just start writing. And I said, I can't do that.
Because to me, like, at some point, like, when you're struggling with, like, oh, how much needs to be on the page, just write the fucking story. Just write the characters, write the action, and things will be threaded in as needed. It will come naturally. And if it doesn't come naturally in draft 1, you'll be able to pinpoint it in draft 2.
One thing that I have noted, there was a fair amount of world building that I wanted to get done before I started, but I will say that I have sort of been doing that, and then just when I run into something, I do my research right then. Mm-hmm. I think about what implications it might have, and then I flesh out as I'm going. So, like, as I'm building the world, as I'm writing, I'm doing the research. So writing is going a lot slower for me than it would be if I was writing, like, a contemporary romance. But I am doing, like, a combination of that. And I think, too, that if I had built out my whole world in the same way as when I was trying to build out a lot of characters, I think if I'd done that, I'd be frustrated. and all that is to say, I do have things that are fleshed out that I know.
Right.
But then a lot of it is like, what supports my plot the most? What supports my theme the most? Always theme. Everything is theme.
Yeah. And that's like it might be really, really cool to know exactly how many rivers your continent has.
I sure do not know that.
But you know what I mean? Like, but some people, they want to know every single little detail of the world. And, like, that's really cool, but that's not what the majority of your readers are going to be coming for.
And, like, all of that is to say, if you do, there are readers who are coming for that, and that could be who your niche is, but you still have to have a plot. And your plot should not come at the expense of knowing how many rivers are in your world. If you want your readers to know that, you can have a map at the beginning of your book.
Yeah. But
everyone loves a map.
I don't think that the map building should come before you've written the book. Mm. I think that is the black hole that a lot of genre writers fall into, is that they spend so much time researching it and, like, doing, like, you know, these character sheets and, you know, drafting maps and, like, doing X, Y, and Z, and they don't fucking write the book.
That's so fair.
That's me. That is my biggest sin. So I say this from experience, that at some point you have to stop. You just have to write. You have to put all that stuff aside, and as you're writing, if you come across something and you're like, oh, I don't know the answer to this, plop a note in, put it in your spreadsheet. However you're keeping track of that, and just keep going. Keep trucking. Put the words down on the page.
Well, and I will say this. So, like, one thing about me that people who know me know is I'm not good with maps, like, in real life. Like, I can barely read a map, and I blame the school system, the education system, just making that note. I'm not good with maps. I'm not great with directions. I can get around where I live because I have learned it, and I know my east from my west now. But, like, if you plopped me in the middle of an unfamiliar location, I'd be like, just put me in a coffee shop and leave me here. Go figure out what you need to do. So, like, map building was not high up on my priorities. However, because I am actually terrible at visualizing anything, I did have to start with a little bit of a map. And it's just like broad strokes. So like I know generally where certain things are placed, and I know generally what geographical features I have. Because I do need to kind of know those things, because when you know those things, you know how your characters are dressing. Like if you're in a mountainous location, people are probably wearing, it's probably chillier.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think for your specific plot, it's more necessary to have those details sketched out.
So yeah, that was one of my questions was actually, and I knew that I wouldn't end up asking you all my questions because we would just sort of like go through them. But one of them was like, I read once somewhere where people were talking about like a geologist read a fantasy book and they were really upset. And they knew that this was just because this was their specialization, but like the tectonic plates weren't working in their map. You know, the way that their geographical features were didn't make sense. And like there will be a geologist. God willing, your geologist knows that they're being nitpicky.
I will say one of the proudest moments in my editorial career, one of the very first world building columns I ever wrote for Writer's Digest was an intro to map making. And I had a geography teacher mail me a letter about how good my article was. And I was like, yeah, I'm a nerd.
I need you to send me that article. But that's amazing. That's so good. I'm not thinking about tectonic plates because I vaguely understand them in real life. I feel like I speak and I just sound dumber. No, it's not dumb to not know about tectonic plates.
I just
That's
think
just
that
a
like
niche topic.
It's just one of those things where like it either interests you or it doesn't, and it's either necessary for your world building or it's not. Like if you were writing a book that was heavily influenced on elementals and where they come from, you might need to know a little bit more about tectonic plates.
Yeah, or like even if I was writing like a walking fantasy, such as Lord of the Rings, I might need to know more about that sort of thing. But I'm not. We're staying in one location for the most part in my fantasy world.
But also like I am a firm believer that like put mountains wherever you want, put lakes wherever you want. Who cares?
You just made a geologist cry.
Yeah, but like I'm not here to learn about your map. I'm here to learn about your characters.
That's how I feel. But also, again, I can't visualize for anything. Right. I'll tell you this, when I read, everything is just sort of like blobs floating in space, which is why I actually get really frustrated when the text makes me feel like the text also is just blobs floating in space. There's like, there's a balance you have to strike when you're doing that, right? There's like, sometimes you just feel like objects are everywhere and you're like, where are they now? What is happening? What is the blocking of this scene? And then sometimes you're like, okay, well, I didn't actually need to know that there were 5 plates in that stack. Nor did I even need to know there were plates stacked there. So it's a balance that you have to strike, but just know that if I'm reading your book, everything is just floating in space in my brain.
Not mine.
I can't visualize anything. That's why I'm really bad at putting together furniture.
I am very good at visualization, and like I do think that's one of my strengths as an editor, because like I can visualize the avenues where the story could go as well.
That's not the same. I'm not talking about metaphorical visualization.
No, but I mean like
I can do that too.
Just things like I feel really bad. I feel like all I do on this show is just like harp on Iron Wing. It's just because it's a book that like I've read recently that I'm like constantly thinking about now.
I think that's so fair. And I mean, it's like a very well-known book.
Yeah.
It's easy to make references to.
But like I get very frustrated thinking about the veil that the dragons live in this like, I don't know, another dimension, ? But it's like in a
D&D.
forest, maybe. And like you have a school, but the school has a forest, and like I'm like, where are these things? You had to like cross like a treacherous bridge to get to the school, and it was raining. But like, where are you? Where are we? Why is the school next to the dragons? Why did the dragons allow you to put a school there?
I think that's a big question that a lot of people have, is like, why did the dragons let you do anything?
Yeah, like how big is the veil? is this the only place we can get into it? Why aren't the Griffins attacking it from other places? Like, I have so many questions. So, like, those are the things that, like, when I was reading, I was like, stop asking the question. Stop caring about that.
That's what I do when I watch Once Upon a Time. My partner, we were watching the first season together, and he was like, wait, so Henry was just, like, reliving the same day for 10 years? And I was like, these are not questions that we should be asking right now. Don't think too hard. Just turn your brain off.
And that's, Supernatural has that, too. There are just some things where you just have to be like, well,
okay,
it didn't happen. Like,
that's happening.
Yep. It happened, and now we can forget about it because it will never come up in any capacity ever again.
Yeah, there's some stuff.
Or, like, be explored in any particular way.
That's kind of why I stopped. I mean, that's why I stopped watching Once Upon a Time. The first half of season 3 is, like, better than the rest of the show still. Like, the remainder of the show, not the show that came before it. But, like, it nonetheless has a lot of things where I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, David gets poisoned, and then he, like, has to drink Neverland juice to, like, go to be healed from this deadly poison, but then he, like, can't leave Neverland, and then they're like, oh no, how are we gonna figure this out? And then Rumpelstiltskin's like, actually, I've been thinking about it, and I can just cure it. What are you talking about? This could be a whole plot.
And that is something that, like, okay, 911 is actually pretty good about, because, I mean, the show is ridiculous, but there was a story arc where Eddie was, like, in this, like, underground fight club.
Of course.
He's like making money in this, like, underground fight club. And
wait,
so,
is
like,
Eddie the single dad?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So then in like seasons later, Buck is like drunk and he's talking about Eddie, and he says something about like something about how like straight and narrow he is or whatever. And another character is like, wasn't he in an illegal fight club? So like they do kind of pull some of those things. And then of course Buck is just like, he was going through some stuff. That's not who he is. Like, you know what I mean? They just kind of brush it aside and keep going. But I'm like, but in other ways, these are the little nitpicky things. Okay? Eddie is supposed to have been shot twice, and we see him shirtless after the fact, and he doesn't have any scars.
I hate that. People in like on TV, and I feel like even in books, people just like forget injuries.
Well, I think that they were just like, who cares? Like, we just don't care enough to do the makeup. But then, so Buck got hit by lightning in one episode, and then there was like a coma arc, right?
Sure,
so,
the coma arc, classic.
The coma arc, yeah. I feel like most medical dramas have some kind of a coma arc.
I don't know, I don't watch medical dramas. I need to watch Scrubs.
Yeah. That is a question. Has Scrubs ever had a coma arc?
Yeah, I don't know.
But,
probably.
Oh, so because I'm, like, interested in the behind the scenes and everything that has to do with that show, I know that Oliver Stark is the actor who plays Evan Buckley. And he posted pictures of, like, all of this, like, scarring and, like, wound that they did. Because, like, something that's very interesting if you didn't know this, when you get hit by lightning, it looks like streaks of lightning on you.
Oh, I did know that because of a book series that Meg Cabot wrote that I also recommend, and it's kind of silly goofy, but I love it and I don't care. And it's like changed names many times.
Oh, interesting.
It was originally called 1-800 Where Are You? And it might still be called that, but I don't know. But the main character is a teenage girl, and she gets struck by lightning, and then she suddenly has the power. If she like sees a photo of a missing child, she wakes up the next day knowing where they are.
Oh, I love that. That's very interesting.
It's so fun, and also it's fun. You should read it. It's really fun.
But that never came into play in the actual episode. So they like took the time to do the makeup, and then they didn't let me see the makeup.
That's horrible. You froze. Are you there? Mariah! Welcome back.
Hi.
Hello. I only have like one more question, and this is my I'm thinking about this, so I'm gonna ask you. Here's a hypothetical. Say you're building a world, second world fantasy. So one thing I've been really thinking about a lot is what words to use for things, because once you start thinking about language, you are immediately like, well, if like Thor doesn't exist, then how do we have Thursday?
Yeah.
But, you know, sometimes we must just have Thursday.
Yep.
So you just have to draw that line. So here's one thing that I am thinking about, and it's silly, but again, I've been thinking about fashion. So I'm torn between pants, trousers, pantaloons, breeches, or, you know, other possible word. How would you go about thinking about that?
I always go with the thing that's going to jar the reader the least.
See, that is good advice. I think that's like pushing the easy button, like we talked about.
Yep, exactly, yes.
But I simply don't know the answer.
What do you mean?
I don't know what's gonna be least jarring.
I think pants.
Really?
Yes. Because trousers might work, but since you're an American writing for mostly an American audience, like, it's gonna feel odd to say. Where, like, I don't know, breeches, pantaloons, like, those would be jarring if we're not in, like, a Wild West sort of setting.
No, breeches is, well, I guess it depends if you say breeches or breeches. I always thought you pronounced breches as breeches as well.
When have you ever heard somebody say breeches in, like, a serious...
I don't want a lot of serious things.
But I'm just saying, like, in your everyday life.
I don't know. But, like, if I'm using historical fashion,
well,
they didn't call them pants all the time.
I guess. If it's, like...
Like, no one's wearing jeans in my world.
They could.
But they're not.
I guess if you want to be, like, historically accurate, but again, there is no history.
Well, and it's sort of like that's
sorry, I was like halfway through a thought. Not that there's no history. It's just like
no, I knew what you meant because I was thinking exactly the same thing.
There is
I mean,
no
and that's kind
history.
of where. Well, and it's like that's kind of the hard part about world building is like I'm in charge of all of this, but also like historical precedent has been set in my own world. So it's like if I want, let's say, a Renaissance level of technology, but no guns, I have to think of a reason. Like, why have guns not been invented? Why are there no? Well, I was gonna say flintlocks, but that's like the 1700s,
You know, it's
or
really
possibly even later.
interesting. I don't think you've ever seen the show Arcane.
No.
That show is a show that has both technology and magic, like, in communication with each other in a really fascinating way. They have guns, but some of their guns are powered by magic, and that is very interesting to me.
See, that kind of reminds me of, like, Stargate, which is not technically magic. Like, they're never like, this is magic. They're like, oh, the alien technology is just, like, so good. Because they're just so technologically advanced. So it kind of feels like that. But mine is more, it's a pretty low magic setting. But, like, I like a D&D aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, I don't want to deal with guns because, like, it's just, like, a lot, man. But, yeah. So that's kind of what I've been thinking about. Like, pants feels way too modern to me. Because my society is pretty not modern.
Well, I guess I will amend my statement to say you should go with what's least jarring to a reader within your particular setting.
See, that's what I thought you meant, you know, originally, and then you said pants. And I was like, I just don't know.
I thought your world was
that's
more
the least
modern.
jarring. Oh, it's not. It's Renaissance level technology.
I did not know that. Like, not that I thought that they were, like, in 2025, but, like, no. I thought we were, like, much further along.
Well, and, I mean, that's, you know, a thing that you have to think about when you're adding magic to your world, right? Is, like, which advances came about, or which advances would not have come about because they would just be using magic, and, like, where would they be potentially more advanced for the timeline?
Well, maybe it'll help you, maybe it won't. But I'm going to say it anyway.
Please do.
So I never thought about... I also love a D&D aesthetic. And that Work in Progress, the novellas where they were all, like, the chosen one, that is also set in, like, a very D&D inspired world. And I never asked myself, why aren't there any guns yet? But if if you would ask me, I would say because there never needed to be, because there was magic.
Which is also the answer that I have. And I will say mine isn't really, like, it doesn't look like D&D at all, but I like the aesthetic of D&D not having guns, basically.
I
just feel like
much
that
closer
makes
to
it...
D&D.
Well, and I just feel like having guns gives it a vibe of, like, steampunk or like other, like, I feel like once you add guns, it becomes like some sort of punk fill in the blank. And I'm just not going for that. I've got men in tights, and that's where we're at right now.
Well, I think the themes that you want to explore are better suited for that than any kind of like punk.
Yeah, I that's just like one more aesthetic. I just can't, I'm dipping my toe into second world fantasy here. Normally I write contemporary fantasy or paranormal. But I do like second world fantasy. That's all my favorite books are second world fantasy. Which is wild because I read like none.
I'm currently reading the third in a second world fantasy series that I really love, and it's so good. It's so good.
What series?
I don't want to say because I am, fingers crossed, going to be interviewing this person for the cover of the magazine. But for an issue that hasn't been announced.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
So
I see.
I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to spoil anything. But yeah, hopefully, if the universe smiles upon me, an upcoming issue will have a second world fantasy author on the cover.
So exciting.
And it's so good. But it is a very interesting blend of, like, it is second world fantasy, but there's, like, stuff from our world in it. And, like, our modern world in it. Which is, like, it's very interesting.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I was surprised that I allowed myself to do, and I hadn't been planning on it, and actually, so I'll just say it, I gave my world running water. And I hadn't been planning on this at all, and I was kind of like, well, there's no reason for it. But then I realized that my very soft magic system was set up almost exclusively to provide running water.
I love that.
Which I didn't really... I hadn't thought about it when I was thinking about what magic could do in this world, but, like, it can... That's the thing it can do. So I surprised myself running water.
I love that. And I feel like that's unique.
Is it? I feel like it's popping up in a lot of fantasies now. But I don't know. Maybe they're more modern than mine.
But do those fantasies have the same, like, does the running water stem from their magic system in the way that yours does?
Oh, actually, I don't know. I always kind of assumed it did. Whenever I hear about a fantasy that I haven't read, I just assume that any technology is, like, magic-based. But that's just me bringing my assumptions to the table.
Yeah.
I could be totally and completely wrong. I don't know everything. Should we didn't plan to do this, but should we mention, like, our top 3 favorite second world fantasy books?
Oh, that's so hard.
Should we? I have an easy answer.
Okay, you go first, and let me
Uprooted.
Let me look at some stuff. Uprooted by
Okay,
Naomi Novik.
Uprooted by Naomi Novik. It's my favorite book. It's so good. If you haven't read it, oh my god, that's all I have to say. You should read it. And then I already said I'm gonna give, like, the whole quartets, the Song of the Lioness Quartet and the Immortals Quartet, and that's gonna be, like, one, because we're talking about world building here, sort of talking about world building, and those are my 2 favorites in the Tortall world. And I said 3. Let me think. Maybe it is harder, because I want to just say Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik, but I want to give a wide variety of things, and I feel confident that I have another second world fantasy, so perhaps you can take a spin at it.
Let me think. I haven't actually been reading a lot of... So, maybe... I don't think you will know the answer to this, because it is a horror. But I think it could be a fantasy horror. The Salt Grows Heavy by Cassandra Khaw.
I don't know that one.
It's so good. It's so good. But it is one of those that will hurt you emotionally.
Well, I know you love to be here. I do want to be clear.
Emotionally.
I feel like all I do is say, like, I don't want to feel sad things. I do like to be hurt emotionally. I just don't like a sad ending.
No,
I don't like to be bummed out by the end.
This one will bum you out.
I don't like that.
I was weeping.
I'm looking as well to see.
So I don't think I can do a top 3, but I can give you some. So
Okay, I think that works.
cannot stop thinking about The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. Loved it. No notes. Loved it. Very, like, it would be almost like if you took Molly from The Maid and put her in a high fantasy setting and, like, made her obsessed with books.
I love that. That's a 10 out of 10
Yep.
for me.
Um,
Why haven't you described it that way to me before?
I love that book so bad. And then another horror I think horror and fantasy, like, I think it could still be fantasy.
Great.
But Someone You Can Build a Nest In by John Wiswell, which...
Can you tell me about that one?
I think so.
I think you mentioned that in an episode recently.
You could never read it, ever.
No, that doesn't sound great to me. I don't like that.
It is body horror to the extreme, but, like, so good.
I believe you.
I really like Travis Baldry's Bookshops and Bone Dust series. Just love a cozy fantasy, if you couldn't tell by, like, The Spell Shop as well. Like, I love something that is gonna, like, pull me in and cradle me. Like, that's what I want from my second worlds, I think. I think everything else...
I can't think of anything either. Except, like, something that I'm too embarrassed to admit. Maybe someday I won't be embarrassed, but that day is not this day.
You're gonna have to text me whatever that one is.
I will. It's like an older fantasy. By older, I mean, like, written when we were children, but, like, for adults. And, like, I was reading it too young, but what can you do?
And then I think the Elfhame series by Holly Black is probably another one of my favorites.
Is that Cruel Prince?
Cruel Prince, Stolen Air, all of those. I really, really like those books.
I should read those books. Those I have no issue with reading. I just, as we've discussed, I tried to read a Holly Black book at a very bad time for me to read the one I picked.
And
I just haven't picked up another one since.
Aiden Thomas's The Sunbearer Trials. If you're into YA, that is one that, like, really I just love so much. I think everything...
Did y'all just see my camera shake?
I did not, but I thought I heard a little cat chirp.
Hello. You sure did. You gonna meow into the mic?
A little cat chirp.
You gonna say something? You gonna say something? Oh, hi. Come closer. Come onto the screen.
She's like, I won't. I won't do it. And if you like YA, Orphans of the Tide by Strawn Murray is another really good one.
Oh, hello. Hi.
Hi.
Hello, June.
She's like...
I can't believe this is the first time she's ever been on camera. You messed up my lighting, June. Now I look all weird and washed out. Your tail is just here. Okay.
She's
what
like, I'll
doing?
take my tail away. How could I forget Maggie Stiefvater's The Scorpio Races?
Oh, I don't know how you could forget that. Hi.
That's another great one.
What's up, honey? Hello.
There's so many good ones.
I keep being like, I keep having ideas and then I'm like, oh wait, that's not in a different world. That's in our world.
And I will say, yeah, that's happening to me too. I will say, like, Uprooted is.
I love Uprooted. It's so good. And I love Spinning Silver. And can you not step on my keyboard?
I feel like,
cool.
and maybe this is controversial, I don't know, but I feel like if you're going to be reading fantasy, you need to read Uprooted and study it.
I agree. I think it's just phenomenal.
I feel like there are a few books in every genre that if you're like, oh, I would love to write horror, like, where should I start reading to, like, this is what I want to do with my horror. This is, like, where should I start reading? I could be like, boom, 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 there. And I feel like if you're interested in world building, specifically, like, fantasy world building, Uprooted is, like the perfect example of, like, really solid world building where, like, every single aspect of the world is woven into the plot in some way.
And I also think it's just, like, a masterclass in plot. Like, it goes from, like, 0 to 1,000. What are you doing? Hi. Sorry, she is still right off screen. But, like, every time you think something might be what happens at the end, it just, like, happens right then. And then escalates further.
So, I do have just two more. The Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. Obsessed with. You probably know this. Something that I do want to say that, like, lives rent-free in my brain, but I am not really a fan of the novels, which is, like, wild to say. Like, how can you love something with all of your heart and soul, but, like, not like reading it? And I have my reasons that we don't need to discuss today. But The Witcher book series. I love the world building. I love the creatures. I love the way that magic is used. I love it. I have some other issues with it, which is why I don't reread it. But it's good.
I tried to read The Witcher, and like, yeah, I think like I was frustrated with the writing style, which was like not really a comment on the writing style, other than like I didn't enjoy reading it.
I mostly have issues with the love and like Geralt's love interest, which again we'll leave that for another time. But I do think it is a very interesting like series to read as a world builder to see how all the different pieces come together.
Sorry, I'm making faces at June. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I'm like out of books. I thought I had. There's Redwall, of course.
Oh, of course.
Can't go an episode without mentioning Redwall. Those are, you know, my favorite childhood books.
I
along with Tortal.
I am waiting for Redwall through the library.
It makes me happy that there's a wait list.
There is.
I mean, not that you have to wait, but like it makes me happy that people are just like checking it out and reading it.
And it was like, you're gonna have to wait like I forget how many weeks, and I was like, I guess I'll wait.
I'm so excited for you. I have at my parents' house, my bookshelf has like 16 Redwall books on it. I eventually stopped. Like eventually at book like 16, I was like, I aged out of them.
I'll tell you what. I read every single Animal Arc book that they wrote. I had aged way out of it. I did not care. I would literally, like, I would be like, a new one's coming out. Take me to Barnes & Noble, because that was the only bookstore in our area. And my mom would drive me the 40 minutes to the bookstore, and I'd go in there and I'd buy it, and I'd have it read in 2 hours. But I loved it.
Well, I think I got frustrated because, like, oh gosh, I'm so sorry. The first, like, 7 to 10 books, he, like, bops back and forth in times. There are a lot of characters you're familiar with, but eventually he just started, like, going later in the timeline. Unlike the thing about Redwall is, like, they're all based in the same, like, the heroes in some books are, like, mythical figures in other books. And he started going, like, chronologically, which is his prerogative as a writer, and I support that. But I think as a child, I was like, well, I want to go back to these characters that I really liked. And I think that was just ultimately why I ended up stopping at book 16. I mean, well, all right. Do we have any other final thoughts about world building?
God, I have so many, but we can save those for another. A part 2.
A part 2, and speaking of part 2, so I asked her my question about pants. Do you have any specific questions? I'll even take a swing at answering them. I can world build. I just don't like to.
You literally do world build.
I mean, so we should have said this at the beginning, and we didn't. World building is for all novels, not just second world fantasy. And so you are always building your world.
I like in my world building column at Writer's Digest, I say like memoirists world build. Like you have to show me the rules that you are living in, what your view of society is, and like make me see through your eyes. All of that is building a world.
That's like in sitcom, there are different rules in their worlds than there are in like a police procedural. But this episode, I really wanted to talk about second world building. Because that's what I'm doing right now. But please ask us your questions. We will do more world building episodes, and let us know what your favorite world building books are. Tell us all your thoughts.
And if there's
your hopes,
anything
your dreams,
you
your world.
particularly want us to tackle, doesn't have to be world building, could be anything.
Yes, please. We're here.
We're gonna be talking about stuff.
We like spending 1.5 to 2 hours
yapping
every couple of days chatting with each other. So give us something to talk about. And so I think that pretty much wraps us up. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, wherever you're listening to or watching us from. And thank you all for joining us. And we can't wait to see you back for next week's episode.
Bye.